Welcome back to Explain-Urgy. All right, today we are tackling one of those epic what-if questions, the kind of thing that feels like it was ripped straight out of a Hollywood blockbuster. So, what if we took the biggest, baddest bomb humanity ever cooked up and dropped it into the deepest, darkest part of the entire planet? I mean, what really happens? Are we talking about a mega tsunami that just erases coastlines? Could you actually crack the Earth's crust? Or maybe a nuclear winter kicks off from all that vaporized ocean? The internet theories are wild, but what does the actual science say? Well, let's find out. First things first, we gotta set the stage. This isn't just any old spot in the ocean. We're going to the Mariana Trench. And believe it or not, this place is, in some ways, way more extreme than the vacuum of space. We're talking about a drop of 11,000 meters. That's almost 7 miles straight down. Down there, it's pitch black, it's freezing cold, and there's this one incredible force that's going to be the star of our show. And that force is pressure. The pressure at the bottom of the trench is more than 1,000 times what you and I are feeling right now. It is an absolutely bone-crushing, unimaginable squeeze. To put that in perspective, at the surface, you've got about 14.7 pounds of pressure on every square inch. Down there, it's 16,000 psi. That's literally like having 100 elephants balance on a postage stamp. And this is the whole key to this puzzle. We think of a nuke as this unstoppable force, right? Well, in the Mariana Trench, it's about to meet the immovable object, the crushing weight of an entire ocean. This pressure, this is the single most important thing to remember. All right, so we've got our weapon of choice. Let's say it's the 50-megaton Tsar Bomba, the biggest ever, and we've got our location. So how in the world do we predict what's going to happen? Well, believe it or not, to see the future here, we have to look to the past. Way back in 1946, the U.S. military ran something called Operation Crossroads, specifically a test they codenamed Baker. They gathered up a whole fleet of old warships, parked them in a lagoon, and then set off a 23-kiloton nuke, about the size of the Nagasaki bomb, just 90 feet under the water. This test gave us our first real, terrifying look at what an underwater nuclear blast actually does. And what they saw was just violent. It happens faster than you can blink. 4 milliseconds in, bam, a shockwave hits the surface and a dome of spray erupts. Just 1 second later, a hollow column of water weighing 2 million tons shoots a mile into the sky. At 2 seconds, this weird misty cloud forms and then just vanishes. But then, around 12 seconds in, something totally new and frankly terrifying rolls across the water, the base surge. And this base surge wasn't just harmless mist. Nope. Think of it like a radioactive fog, a heavy rolling cloud of atomized seawater. And it was carrying all the deadly fallout from the bomb, basically painting everything it touched with an invisible layer of poison. Okay, so we'll get back to that poison in a second, but first, let's talk about the big one. The number one fear everyone has when they think about this, the tsunami. Is this it? Is this the explosion that creates a planet-killing wave, a mega tsunami that wipes out cities? The answer, thankfully, is a clear and simple no. And it all comes back to that insane pressure and depth we talked about. Look, the Baker test was in super shallow water, and even it only made a 94-foot wave that died out pretty quick. Our bomb is 7 miles deep. All that water on top of it acts like a giant planetary-sized cushion. It literally smothers the blast, absorbing the energy before it can ever create a mega tsunami on the surface. So, we're not going to crack the planet, we're not going to flood the world. But don't you dare think that means there's no disaster here. Oh no, the real catastrophe is way sneakier, and it has everything to do with what happened to those ships that survived the Baker test. That base surge I mentioned, it coated the entire fleet of 95 ships with intense radioactive fallouts. And the Navy tried literally everything to clean them off. They used fire hoses, scrub brushes, soap, even caustic lye. But nothing worked. The radiation had basically become part of the metal. The ships were now untouchable, a fleet of radioactive ghost ships, so dangerous they couldn't even be scrapped. Most of them just had to be towed out to the deep ocean and sunk. Okay, let's bring it all home. We've got the incredible pressure of the trench. We've got the terrifying lesson about fallout from history. So now, let's finally push the button on our 50-megaton Tsar Bomba and see what the final verdict is. But first, a quick reality check. Our Tsar Bomba is 50 megatons of energy. That sounds absolutely insane, right? And it is. But look at this. The earthquake that caused the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, that was like 2 million megatons. A single big hurricane, that can be up to 6 million megatons of energy. Next to the forces of nature, our biggest bomb is barely a firecracker. So here it is, the final play-by-play. The bomb goes off. It instantly vaporizes a huge amount of water, creating a superheated bubble of steam. But remember that pressure? That's 16,000 psi? It immediately slams back, crushing the bubble. The bubble doesn't just pop, though. It fights back. It expands and collapses over and over again, like this furious underwater battle. And that process just eats up almost all the bomb's energy. Up on the surface, you might see a big swell, maybe a plume of steam. But no mega tsunami. The ocean itself contains the blast. But every drop of water in that 7-mile deep column is now a lethally radioactive, toxic soup for centuries to come. And that's the real takeaway here, and it's kind of mind-blowing. We think of our own power as this ultimate world-breaking thing, but when you put it up against the raw, fundamental forces of the planet, it's just nothing, a tiny flicker. The explosion sounds like the absolute end of the world to us, but for the Earth itself, it barely even blinks. So, yeah, the planet would be just fine. But let's not mistake that for a happy ending. Remember, the head of the Atomic Energy Commission called the tiny little Baker test, which was thousands of times smaller, the world's first nuclear disaster, simply because of the contamination. What we would create with a 50-megaton bomb in the trench? It wouldn't kill the planet, no. But it would create a permanent, untouchable, ecological dead zone, a poisonous ghost at the very bottom of the world that would last for ages. So it leaves you with a pretty wild thought, doesn't it? What's the real power here? The bomb that fails to shake the world, or the poison it leaves behind that can never be cleaned up?